What's going on, folks? This weekend, Hamilton was streaming on Disney Plus, and if you don't know anything about me, I live for some sing-songy shit. You throw in a little bit of rhythm, some catchy beats, and a good story, and I will sit through almost anything. And Hamilton was extraordinary. It was amazing. The choreography, it was great. It was so captivating that it actually had me believing for a split second that I lived in an alternate universe where the founding fathers were people of color and they had rap battles in Parliament. And then snap back to reality. Up there goes Gravity. Up there goes Mark, realizing that he's back in America. And that is not the world that we live in. And today I'm going to talk to you about being a black content creator in America. I have to admit, this video is actually very difficult for me to make. Like, you don't even understand the amount of cuts and retakes and just shuffling through the actual footage and the verbiage and just going halfway through a sentence and then just thinking to myself like, it's exhausting. And I think having this conversation is just generally exhausting. Generally, when we have these conversations, we're not having them to other black people because black people are black. They've been black their whole life. So they already know what the experience is like being a black person in America. I mean, if you're an African American, or if you're just black in America, or if you're pretty brown in America, depending on your circumstances, you probably have a pretty vivid idea of what it's like being a person of color in America. And it's difficult. It's just hard, like just straight up. And I can only speak on my experiences as a black man. I can only imagine whatever I'm experiencing is at least double times as more difficult for black women because they have to deal with racism and misogyny. So what I would like to talk to you today is about being a black content creator in a corporate setting. Now, that seems like a very specific thing to talk about, but as a filmmaker, making films is so expensive. It is like one of the most expensive art forms there is. Even right now that I talk to you, the camera, the gear around me, everything in my basement studio, I've accumulated over just years and years of just paying off high interest credit card loans. But it's super expensive. And there just hasn't been a lot of representation that looked like me growing up. A lot of the black films, because they're called black films or films of people of color, generally had a particular type of theme to it. You know, either they were a slave movie, a civil rights movie, some type of injustice type movie. And then you got your Tyler Perry's. Shout out to Tyler Perry. You really did it. I appreciate you. But at the same time, I just kind of just want, just a regular movie, maybe a little bit of action, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery, maybe. I don't know, throw in a plot twist, something called character development, maybe like a dash of nuance. And there's just a lack of that. So being a filmmaker is difficult enough. I think being a filmmaker of color is extremely difficult because we're all fighting for basically one slice of the pie. There's going to only be like one super hot, black filmmaker at a time. That's starting to change up now, but back in the day, that's just kind of how it was. So a lot of filmmakers end up getting into corporate spaces, video editing gigs. Pretty much all creatives end up in what I like to call corporate creative. Every company needs artists. They just do. Not every company is artist-centric. Most companies are sales-centric, but they need their pamphlets to look good. They need their training videos to sound and look good. They need their proposals and whatever to look great. So they hire us lonely, sad little dreamers to bring on board and to make their stuff work for them. And that's where the corporate creative comes from. Now, being a black corporate creative, in my experience, has been extremely difficult. Mainly because usually I'm the only person who looks like me doing roughly what I'm doing. And when you're the only person who looks like you doing what you do, usually you end up kind of being the arbiter of all things race related. In a way, I'm not saying like every company you're going to walk into, they're going to, every time there's like a word that they don't know, that they probably will for a word that they don't know, like some type of slang or something, you actually might end up actually talking about that. But like more realistically, yeah, you probably will end up having some type of situation where you're like, I don't think we should do that. And from my experience, again, I can only speak on my experiences. I found myself having to, wear a facade in some instincts just to kind of get into the doors and just blend into the day to day. And it's tiring and it's definitely difficult. So why have this conversation? Why talk about it now? Because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's having this conversation and it seems like people actually want to listen. And then when we want to listen, it's like, well, what do you want to say? Like, what do you want them to do? And honestly, I just don't want them to do anything. Me personally, I just want to exist, if that makes any sense to you. I want characters that are just black. It would be great if there were commercials with just, we see it a little bit more in media, but I mean, I've worked at companies where they just don't have people of color and stuff. And if they give me anything to edit, I'm going to look for some footage or something that has a black person in it, or a Hispanic person, or an Indian person, or someone to throw in there just to like show that people exist and they do things and they buy things and they like stories and they want to see themselves on the screen. And at the end of the day, representation matters so much. Being a black content creator, let's take it into two lanes. We're going to do being a black corporate creative. What I would like to see is just a little bit of just a little bit of chill. There's plenty of times when the microaggressions of the I'm not racist, but I say racist things come out, and it is annoying. There's plenty of times when, things that you may not think are necessarily racist are pretty racist. Prime example, as a man, there's been times when I've had my misogyny checked where I didn't know necessarily I was saying some inappropriate shit. I just thought that I was just being like, oh, you look nice in that outfit. You probably don't have to say that. Like, it's work. No one cares. Like, why does that matter? So something like, hey, your hair looks different all the time. Like, maybe you just don't. Or, if you're feeling really comfortable with someone and you want to, ask them all the questions because they might be the only person of color in your life. How about you just don't? Just don't. Not at work. Maybe befriend them a little bit. Put some years in. Put a little bit of effort in. Get to know them on many levels. And 9 out of 10, the questions you want to know will probably get answered. Or, I don't know, just Google that shit. I think it gets tiring and like a little difficult. And I know I've had to personally work as a man on just respecting and understanding women's views and difficulties in the workspace alone. Like I understand it to a point that I can, like to the level that I can. And it took a lot of work to get there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like my younger years were some fuckboy. I was on some dark shit. But I wanted to change. I saw the change. So I guess from all of my corporate America people out there who hire people to do corporate artwork stuff for you, or if you look around your office and you happen to see that there's like one lonely black dude who's like doing some type of work, or one lonely black woman who's doing some type of work, just let them work. Just let them cook. Don't get super comfortable. Don't ask them weird questions like, do they know their dad or anything like that. Don't ask them like, if they know the lyrics to certain songs. You know, I don't go around asking every friend of mine if they know the lyrics of Dave Matthews, because I already know the lyrics of Dave Matthews, because that shit slaps. But just leave them alone. You know, just do the work. Just hire people for the work that they want to do, and then just let them do the work. As far as film, what I would love to see from Hollywood, which I probably will never see, but it would be great if we could see it, is just tell stories with black people in them. They don't have to be slave stories. They don't have to be these super sad stories where at the end it's just so much pain. Like, black people's stories have been full of so much pain for so long. It's so tiring. And I can go off a list of movies, and when I saw 12 Years a Slave, I like that's the last slave movie I will ever watch in my life. I'm just done. I'm good. I know it happened. It definitely, for some people out there who didn't know it, who doesn't know it happened, and they think about like, oh, there was indentured servants and it wasn't that bad. It was fucking horrific and it sucked. And we were still, you know, suffering from it. And I just don't want to see it on media anymore. I feel like we have enough. Let's just tell regular stories. You know, I want to see a story about, I don't know, a little black kid who's a poet and just writes poems. And every once in a while you see them and they're coming around, and it's golden. I think Uncorked, which is like a Netflix film about a guy who wants to be, he's into wine, which is great. You know, just give me those stories more. And I think you'll understand that it's great. Yeah. Okay, I feel like I've rambled enough. This video is going on longer than I thought it would be, and I'm going to have to edit so much of it. But we are where we are. So that's my little spill on being a black content creator in America. If you like what you heard, please... I feel so weird saying it, but if you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button, holla at me in the comments. Oh, before we go, there is one thing I will definitely like to say, and this is just an all-around thing. Representation matters. It is such a fact. Behind me, in this case, you'll see there's like an odd set of figurines. I have a particular set of collections. I like to collect black superheroes, action figures. And wherever I go, anytime I go to a toy store, I always walk down the toy aisle, and I'm looking for black superheroes. Growing up, I was such a nerd, and I was a nerd when it wasn't fun. Like, I was a nerd when they were getting shoved down hills in like garbage cans. And I just loved that shit. And the only superheroes we had just sucked. They sucked. Like, Bishop had a perm in the 90s, and that sucked. How many, black superheroes are in DC that are just, they're not very great all the time. So as I've gotten older, and there's been more and more like an influx of like characters of color who are actually cool, and these toys actually exist. Whenever I see them, I buy them. It's so, in some cultures, it's even worse, but like, I used to love the Ninja Turtles because they had no color. And I would just identify with what I thought was like the black version of a non-colored character. Everyone knows in the black community, Raphael is the black Ninja Turtle. Everyone knows that Jazz is the black Transformers. You ask all my anime fans, they will all tell you that Piccolo is low-key a black dude from Dragon Ball Z. So in this case behind me, I call it my Tower of Superb Blackness. I find all these black action figures, these black characters of sci-fi and films, and I buy the toys and I hold on to them, because if you keep them in a box, they're not toys, they're collectibles. That's what I tell my nephews, and I will tell my son. But it means something to me, and I just hope that I can add content to that tower. I hope that I can create characters and worlds and just help little boys and girls of color find them on the big screen up there. And then when they go into that theater to escape like I do, it makes coming back not so much harder. And yeah, and that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Awkward and kind of rambly conversation on being a Black content creator in America. Until next time, see you later.